There was no weather. The weather had been killed. The clouds had been replaced by ash fields that stained the sky. The rain had been substituted for the Physaline runoff of explosive residue. The sun was absent. Instead, the scene was lit by the brilliance of hellfire missiles arcing across the tortured heavens. The chaos of the sky could be likened to a storm, but there was no thunder beyond the reverberant boom of heavy arsenal and the smothered screams of hundreds dying second after second. I knew I was dreaming. I had already lived those moments of thrumming adrenaline and half-choked prayer. The smog-strangled song of hymnals formed snatches of sound in the madness of overlapping noise. The strength of my limbs, supplemented by the miracle of power armor, catapulted my legs across the detritus of thousands dead. I knew I was dreaming, even as I was dreaming. And yet, I was powerless to it, enslaved to the narrative and where it led. Not that it mattered. Even though I knew where the dream would lead me, I was happy to stay. I just wanted to see her again. She sprinted alongside me. The ebon hue of her power armor was unblemished by dust or ash or blood, as if all the carnage of war had instead caught on the scarlet reds of her tattered vestments. Her holy bolter roared righteous vengeance, each round puncturing her prayers with the God Emperor's wrath. We had foregone our helmets. We wanted to show contempt to the foe. We fought for the Hawk of the Sun, the first and last lord of the eternal Imperium, and we wanted to show the enemy our hate. Her hair flowed behind her as she ran. Strands of perfect black and pristine white brought vibrancy to a world of ashen grey. Her face was a snarl of ecstatic fury, a crisscross of scars underlining her hatred with stigmata proof. She reached the main road and slammed into the cover of an automobile's burnt-out chassis. I followed her, the shoulder of my armor forming a new dent in the vehicle's broken hull. She turned to me. Her divine hatred melted away, replaced with the beatific vision of a living saint. Adrenaline thrills shot through my beating heart. She smiled, her eyes shining bright, and I smiled back. "I tread the path of righteousness," she said, and I took up the prayer alongside her. Though it be paved with broken glass, I will walk it barefoot." We rose with our bolt guns firing, targeting the heavy weapons embankment on the other side of the road. Our holy weapons made a mockery of their sandbags and rock-reap barricades. Cover became shrapnel, excoriating the traitors who cowered behind. Though I cross rivers of fire, I'll pass over them. Traitors howled as bolt rounds struck torsos. When the rounds detonated, they unveiled the enemy as never being anything more than a disgusting waste of human meat. Though it wanders wide, the light of the Emperor guides my step. A blessed bolt struck the ammunition store of an autocannon. A pyrotechnic bloom of whizzing ammunition and exploding Physaline temporarily snatched away sight. The screams of the dying were as music to our ears. We ducked back into cover to reload. As my hands moved on autopilot, I turned to her and smiled. She smiled back, that immaculate, beatific smile. With a quick battle sign, she gestured us forward. I knew this was a dream. I knew what was coming. But I was powerless to prevent it. The sniper's bullet ricocheted from my shoulder plate and struck her to the side of the neck. She staggered. Her hand shot up to the spurt of blood. It was like she was swatting away a flea bite. Then all strength fled from her, and she fell in slow motion to the dusty ground. I screamed. Battle-earned instincts guided my bolter to the remains of a municipal building, chasing muzzle flash to the bombed-out carcass of an administratum block. My bolter kicked against my shoulder as I squeezed the trigger. A dusty window exploded. A cascade of broken glass reflected the crimson red of a headless traitor. She hit the ground the moment I stopped firing, a clumsy tangle of flopping limbs. I knew she was dead. Her soul had left her body, along with all her grace and fervour, leaving behind a corpse draining colour from a hole in its neck. I fell to the ground beside it and reached out to her face, but it shrank into the far distance, forever beyond my grasp. And then the dream ended, and I returned to the conscious present. I took a deep breath through my nose. The rough fabric of my bedroll agitated the skin exposed by patches and holes in my bodysuit, coarse fibres finding recent bruises and scratching along bloody grazes. I lay still in that discomfort for a few minutes, steadying my breathing. Then I wriggled free of my bedroll and found my feet. My sisters were still sleeping, wearing permanent frowns across their scarred faces, tormented by the haunting dreams of their unforgiven sins. The sun was soon to rise. The sky took on a pale indigo hue where the star brimmed at the horizon's edge. An ethereal half-light was cast through the windows of the barracks, a hesitant, ghostly searchlight seeking some unremembered target. I padded over to the ablution chambers. My bare feet stung from the cold. I walked slowly. Closing the door behind me, I activated the lumens and observed myself in the mirror. I looked tired. Skin sagged around my eyes, where the flesh had darkened to an unhealthy purple blue. Old scars dragged on my skin. My cheeks drooped. My scalp was a bristle of growing hair. I needed to shave it. I splashed freezing water onto my face. Now fully awake, I drew my combat knife from its belted sheath around my thigh, and began to scrape the new shoots of hair from my head. Spots of blood glistened across my scalp. I watched one line of blood dribble down from my forehead and leak past my eye, a single tear of sanguine red. It was a poor effort at shaving. My scalp was a patchwork of bristles and scabbing cuts, but I had lost interest. I sheathed my knife and made my way to the showers. I didn't remove my body glove. I simply let the cold waters wash over me, draining away the sweat and the blood and the urine and the feces in a red-brown puddle. My faithless body shivered. I closed my eyes and remained still. The door opened as one of my sisters wandered in. She ignored me, and I ignored her. Neither of us knew the other's name. We never talked, unless practicality forced us otherwise. It wasn't a rule. No one had told us that we couldn't talk to one another. We just didn't. We knew we didn't deserve it. The closest we came to socializing was when we recited prayers, our hoarse voices overlapping in an arrhythmic dirge. The rest of my sisters began to filter in, silently performing tasks of hygiene in readiness for the day ahead. I left the ablution chambers before it became busy. Dawn had broken. The main barracks was empty. I crossed the hall to my bedroll and knelt on the hard rockreed floor. From a pouch belted to my other thigh, I unfurled a small scourge and began flagellation. Each blow was a stinging rebuke along my back. I began to feel blood running down either side of my spine. "Enough," the mistress said. Her voice was harsh. I had not heard her approach. Obediently, I let the scourge fall across my knees. I breathed through the pain as the blood reached my backside and leaked across the floor. "Remember that the scourge is a punishment, sister." "I do, mistress." "Never forget." The pain is not to soothe you. It is to excoriate you. I said nothing to that. I wasn't sure what to say. I heard the mistress inhale through pursed lips. Did you mark how you failed to hear me arrive? Just like you failed to see the sniper that took your sister's life. I bowed my head and fought the urge to weep. The mistress would not look kindly on my tears. You are vain and self-absorbed. No wonder she caught the bullet that was meant for you. Yes, mistress. Gather your sisters. We move out in 5. Remember your oaths. You are far from absolution, lost to any exculpation. You offered yourselves to repentance, for before the Emperor you have sinned. You are beyond forgiveness. You are beyond forbearance. You are beyond mercy. Remember that. We knelt on the floor of the rhino's hold, jostled by the suspension as its tracks ground rubble into powder. The mistress stood in the centre, her neural whip uncoiled. We leaned against our eviscerators, like ancient knights pledging oaths to a feudal lord. The purity seals along our weapons fluttered in the suspension jolt breeze. You made your oaths, and your sisters turned their backs upon you. They cast off your armor and your arms. I swallowed. I remembered the day I took the oath of the penitent. I remembered the looks of pity and fear in my sister's eyes. But she was not among them. She was already gone. You left your companies of your own free will, and swore that by your will alone would you return. You swore to seek the Emperor's forgiveness in the darkest places of the night. Your sisters told you that when forgiveness is yours, they would welcome you back. But you also swore that you were beyond forgiveness, beyond forbearance, beyond mercy. I bowed my head. It seemed as though I could feel my sisters remove the blessed power armor from my shoulders and take my sacred bolter from my unworthy hands. So you made your oaths. Until that time you returned to your sisters. You are nameless. Even if they saw you, they would not see you. Even if they knew you, they would know fear. For you have no faces but the ones you now wear. You are Sisters Repentia, until absolution finds you once more. The rhino jolted as it took a corner a fraction too fast. Our knees rose from the grating and slammed back down, scraping free skin and blood. Today, you may find absolution in death. Do not shy from death, because it is your only chance at salvation. Do not falter, because this is what you deserve. You know your sins, and you know there is no forgiveness beyond the Emperor's infinite grace. The amber light at the front of the hold fizzed to violent red. In the corner of my eye, I saw the mistress turn her head to acknowledge the shifting hues. We fight orcs. By our wrath shall we cleanse this world of the Xenos filth, and with our blood shall we purify the land. Sisters, stand and face outwards. Feel the sting of the lash once more, and remember that you are less than nothing, and deserve even less. I obeyed, rising with my eviscerator and turning outwards. I thought of her black and white hair, and the way her face pinched together in hate when the enemy was nearby. I thought of her screaming prayers in the midst of battle, and the way her ebon armor seemed to glow from invisible halos under storm-racked skies. The mistress's neural whip lashed my spine. Excoriation impulses sent jolts of agony along every nerve of my body. I screamed. How could I not? My sisters were soon screaming too. Suffer not the Xenos to live! The rhino screeched to an abrupt stop. The side hatch before me flew open with a shrieking hiss, and the red glow of the hold was replaced by the sepulchre grey of a dying city. I heard the roar of Xenos filth. Their brutish war chants aped Gothic, compounding the blasphemy of their foul existence. I screamed in hatred and grief and revved my eviscerator. The churn of its teeth threatened to unbalance my grip. I could feel the fury of its machine spirit, vibrating through my bones and passing judgment on my rancid sin. We charged from the rhino, howling bloodthirsty prayers and maddened exultations to the master of humanity. The APC had delivered us into the thick of the fighting, braving crude, corkscrewing rockets and the pitter-patter nuisance of makeshift machine guns. Now, it drove away, its mission complete. My feet slammed against the cracked road, launching me towards the skeletal ruins of devastated hab blocks. The orc barbarians rose to meet us, slavering from their wet, slopping tongues. They were huge, a mob of what passed for mid-ranking officers among their savage ranks. Their weapons were brutish cleavers. The orange-brown specks of rust were like rot around haphazard patches of dried human blood. I met the first head-on. The muscles in my arms screamed as I brought my eviscerator overhead, the weight of the weapon completing the momentum of my swing. The orc blocked with its machete. My arms jarred as our weapons clashed. The Xenos smelt foul, like mouldy fungi, festering in effluence. I screamed in the monster's face, willing my eviscerator's teeth to rip the cleaver from the alien's hands. We struggled for a few moments, savage brawn against machine spirit fury. I felt the vibrations of my weapon throughout my entire body. Every rotation of its teeth drew angry sparks of light. My eviscerator jumped free, and the pull of its teeth dragged me forward. The blade sank into the soft meat between the orc's neck and shoulder. It began to tear. I cried in exultation and hate, driving all my strength into the eviscerator's descent. The orc's machete slipped from its grasp. Where there had been sparks, there was now black blood and rancid greenskin meat. I tasted the mouldy damp of alien physiology in my mouth. My disgust lent me extra strength. With gritted teeth, I drove my weapon towards the monster's heart. The orc arched back, transfixed by the agony of its death. As the eviscerator reached its torso, it instinctively struck at me with its fists, each blow like a mechanical tenderizer, slamming into processed meat. I felt a rib break. I coughed blood, punched from between my lips by another brutal blow. Something gave way in the orc's innards. My eviscerator chewed up its internal organs into a black bile paste. Its insides blended. Its body almost split in twain. The Xenos finally died and collapsed to the dusty road. My ears were half deafened by the roar of chained teeth. Most of us were dead, human and orc alike. The black foulness of Xenos ichor mixed with the crimson of human blood. Torn up alien flesh folded over the amputated limbs of my dead sisters. Thrumming eviscerators spasmed against rockreed, recoiling angrily from the chipped metal of primitive cleavers. I spat saliva and blood. The mistress still lived. She clung to her enemy's back, her neural whip wrapped around the orc's thick neck and giving off fumes of burnt, mushroom flesh. She leaned away from the alien's spine, Her weight and the orc's spasms pulled the neural whip tighter and tighter. The orc's eyes popped in a fizzing slurry. Its knees slammed into the ground. The mistress threw herself off the monster's back to reveal the full extent of her grisly injuries. She had been partially bifurcated just below the groin. One of her legs was gone. The other was a bloody ruin of trailing, flayed muscle around a white shoot of bone. I met her eyes as she hit the ground. There was something in her expression I couldn't quite pass, something half hidden behind her exhaustion and pain. I turned away, pivoting to the snorts of an approaching beast. An injured orc limped towards me. One hand was gripped around the shaft of a huge axe. The other struggled to scoop its insides back into its gut. We were the only combatants left standing. I screamed hate and defiance. Wrenching my eviscerator free from the black-green slurry of the dead orc, I leaned into my swing and chopped towards the alien's side. The orc was too dim-witted or injured to evade. My eviscerator tore its body and discovered the spilling nightmare of its guts, ripping intestines loose from its clutching hand. The Xenos staggered. It made vague motions like it was trying to bring up its axe, but its strength was already spent. It fell, dead. I panted for breath, turning back to the mistress. I saw that she was dead. My sisters were dead as well. I was alone. I looked about, seeking martyrdom. My body glove stuck hot and wet to my back. I wiped orc gore from my face. The furious trade of fire that had been as hail against our rhino hull had now collapsed into an uneasy quiet. Soldiers of the Astra Militarum had risen from their cover and made a push across the road, buoyed by our example, or else capitalizing on the distraction we provided. The bodies of men and women were strewn across the rockcrete. They draped like lounging harvest nobles over automobile wrecks. Body parts were scattered like toy bricks, bringing new moisture to the dusty road. But there were orcs among the dead too. Green-skinned corpses lay blistered with las rounds. Others were punctured by bayonets. By his grace, we had won. One tiny skirmish of a victory inside a city fully overtaken by apocalyptic war.
Sister?
A young guardsman picked over the rubble towards me. His knuckles were white around the stock of his lasgun. Where his fringe poked from beneath the flak of his helmet, his hair was wet and slick. I nodded to him. I winced, even at that. My broken rib pulsed, purple bruises blossoming like invasive flora across my torso. I pressed a hand against it, as if I could somehow hold back the unfolding ache. The soldier blanched.
Medic!
I shook my head at that, but it was too late. A soldier with corporal pips rushed over. Her medikit was decorated with a red, serpent-entwined rod.
"Where does it hurt?"
she asked. "I have a broken rib. But spare your arms, Corporal. It is nothing." As the corporal dithered, I took stock. A rough count of heads suggested that I was looking on the remnants of a full platoon, now consolidating on our side of the road. They had taken heavy casualties. There were barely enough of them left to form 2 full squads. They looked green. Some of them were retching.
Perhaps I can take things from here, Annie.
I turned to the speaker, noting the torn rags of an ecclesiastical tabard beneath MINISTORUM grade flak. He was older than the rest, perhaps in his late 20s, but his eyes were older still, a deep acorn brown within crinkled crowfeet skin. An aquila pendant hung from his neck. When he removed his helmet, a thick sheen of sweat clung to the hair left by his tonsured scalp.
It's all right,
he told the corporal.
Go. So you can be saved.
As you say, preacher.
Thank you, Annie. Peter, would you do me a favour?
The boyish-faced soldier nodded eagerly.
Yes, Father?
I want you to talk to Sergeant Villick and make a suggestion. A suggestion, Peter. And coming from you, not me. Do you understand?
Yes, Father.
Please suggest to Sergeant Villick that the platoon should gather supplies from the fallen. Lads' ammunition, grenades, rations. Anything consumable.
Good idea, Father.
Thank you, Peter. And please remember, this didn't come from me.
Yes, Father.
I watched as the soldiers began to organize themselves, trembling hands reaching towards the slaughtered dead. They must be inexperienced if you need to tell them that, I noted. The preacher smiled wanly.
They are. They're conscripts. They've only been in the city a few days. Their lieutenant was a factorum foreman, but he died the first day. Sergeant Villick worked on the presser.
He held out a hand.
I'm Gerald. Emperor's blessings upon you, sister.
I took his hand. Lorelei. And you, Father.
Well met, Sister Lorelei.
His eyes creased in wry amusement.
As it is, I'm pretty green too. But I was able to read a brief primer on the Tactica Imperialis before assignment. You've taken the Oath of Penitence?
Yes, Father.
Your intervention was well timed. You and your sisters were an inspiration. It finally got us across the road.
The preacher stared out over the rockreed, his expression a mix of sadness and pride.
They acquitted themselves well, don't you think?
I suppose so, Father. For factorum workers. He paused at that. A small smile joined his sad eyes.
You have had a hard life, Lorelei, but a privileged one, too. These men and women didn't even know what an orc was until a week ago, and they're unused to the chaos of total war. Still they fight. I say they have been very brave.
Sensing the censure in his words, I lowered my head. I don't mean to undermine their service.
I'm more worried about you undermining yourself, sister. Remember that you are exceptional. The fearlessness, such bravery is beyond the ken of most. Don't forget that.
I frowned, not sure what to say. The preacher filled the silence.
So, your rib. You said it was broken?
I think so. I felt it crack.
These bastard orcs hit hard, but it seems you hit harder, thank the Emperor. Sit down on that wall. I know a little Medicae.
I sat as bid, ripping away my body glove so the preacher could access my injury. The skin was purple and black. The preacher winced on my behalf.
Ouch. Okay.
He gently pressed his hands against me. I couldn't help but flinch at the pain, and his eyes briefly met mine.
Sorry.
It's fine.
I think you're right. You've cracked a rib. Unfortunately, there's not too much I can do about that. But Annie will have an ice pack in her medikit. It'll help with the swelling.
She should keep her supplies for those that need it.
Don't be silly, Lorelei. It's only an ice pack. Carlos! Emperor bless you. Would you do me a favour and ask Corporal Harris for an ice pack? Thanks.
My frown deepened. I wiped more of the orc guts from my face. It's not silly, I told him.
How old are you, Lorelei?
I paused, conversationally off balance. It's hard to be sure. 17, I think. His eyes glittered.
17 years.
He repeated. He looked up as a soldier jogged over, ice pack in hand.
Thank you, Carlos.
I inhaled sharply as the preacher placed the ice pack against my side. Why?
You looked very young. I was curious.
Well, now you know. He smiled at the hostility in my voice. I bowed my head. Forgive me, Father.
Don't be silly. It's fine.
I grunted as my fidgeting caused the ice pack to shift. You've called me silly twice now, Father. You must think me very foolish.
No, nothing like that.
I saw him gently sigh.
Forgive me, Lorelei. I didn't mean to offend you.
You don't need to apologize, Father.
The Emperor sees you, Lorelei. He sees your sacrifice and loves you for it.
It's not sacrifice, Father. It's penitence. And the pain washes away my sin. That's why maybe others are more deserving of your ministrations, Father.
If pain washes away your sin, then, from what I can see, you must be entirely sinless.
No. No, Father. I am not without sin. I am not forgiven. He nodded. He fixed his eyes on the ice pack, giving me a few seconds to compose myself before he spoke again.
There should be a church just on the other side of these buildings, by the name of St. Astor's. I'm sure it's little more than a ruin, but I would like to visit it, all the same. I'd reconsecrate the place, if it's been defiled. Would you escort me there, Lorelei?
I rose to my feet, enthusiastic at the prospect of action. Of course, Father.
My only condition is that you must hold that ice pack against your rib.
My weapon requires both hands.
I'm sure you can carry it along with one. If we're attacked, you can drop the ice pack then.
As you say, Father.
Just give me a few moments to speak with Sergeant Villick. I don't want him to look around and wonder where I've gone.
We advanced through the skeletal wreck of a once-living metropolis. Our feet ground the ash of infrastructure beneath. A cold wind was funneled along gutted side streets, Father Gerald's tattered tabard fluttering like a ragged flag. We walked in silence. Father Gerald wielded a lasgun. My eviscerator rested on one shoulder. I thought about how I was still alive, and pressed the ice pack deeper into my cracked rib. We encountered no orcs. That was no surprise. The sound of recent battle had drawn every nearby Xenos to the conflict, and there they had been exterminated. The streets were blessedly pure, for now. St. Astor's was a small church. By the Emperor's grace, it had not been singled out for ransacking, but the building was far from unscathed. Its gabled roof had partially collapsed, where the shrapnel of a stray artillery round had punched a cratered hole. Its walls, formed of a foreign white stone, were dirtied by dust and fire damage, the smoothness marred by ugly chips and cracks. Of the holy Aquila raised in gilded brass above the broken front doors, only one wing remained, the rest of it looted or destroyed, or otherwise simply gone. Nonetheless, Father Gerald smiled.
It's still here, and mostly intact. Praise be.
Praise be, I echoed. We advanced. Our movements were still cautious, but Father Gerald spoke with a conversational tone.
I suppose it was protected, for the most part?
By the God Emperor. He smiled at that.
By the Habs on either side.
He gestured to the leering tower blocks, each leaning precariously towards the church. Despite myself, I smiled back. He chuckled.
Come on. Let's see what remains of it inside.
St. Astor's was arranged like a church triple its size. A few lines of wooden pews had once sat in its tiny nave, evidenced only by the shattered detritus of blackened wood. Ahead, a broken pulpit thrust from a raised platform of cracked stone. A tall, stained glass window would once have bathed that pulpit in multicoloured light, but now only jagged shards cut from a mostly empty pane. Next to the pulpit was space for a small shrine, a circular patch of discoloured stone hinting at the existence of a stand. Halfway along the nave, on either side, doors led to private wings, no doubt the quarters of the priests and acolytes that had resided there.
If viewed from above, St. Astor's would resemble the Holy Aquila.
Most churches do.
That's right. Forgive me, I forget my audience. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know.
No forgiveness is needed, Father.
If only you truly believed that, Lorelei.
He made his way up the nave and rested his lasgun on the stage. Staring up at the broken window, he knelt and made the sign of the Aquila. I limped after him.
Almighty Emperor, he who sits on the golden throne of terror and is the master of humankind, Hawker the Sun, and the first and last Lord of his eternal Imperium, we praise you and submit to you, and pray that you cast your eye upon your church of St. Aster, named for your servant, who brought water to the thirsty, and thus demonstrated the bounty that is faith in you. For they who wait for the Emperor shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. So it is written, and so it must be. Amen.
I bowed my head. Amen. Father Gerald rose. He sat on the edge of the stage and patted the stone beside him. With some hesitation, I sat next to him.
Thank you for accompanying me.
Of course, Father. If only there had been Xenos to slay.
I think you may have slain them all already, at least around here.
Not just me. He inclined his head in recognition. I shuffled a little closer. What is the regiment?
The 1st Free Regiment of New Acrolan. The unlucky first, to some.
Why?
The men and women of the 1st Free Regiment were the first to be conscripted by lottery. Of course, there's a 2nd and 3rd Free Regiment now. And with attrition rates being what they are, it's only a matter of time before every man and woman on New Acrolan is called upon to fight.
I pursed my lips. To call them unlucky is blasphemous. To fight and die for the Emperor is a blessing, not a curse.
You are right, of course. But remember that these people are factorum workers and hall labourers. When they look upon war, they see only its horror. If they call it a curse, then the fault lies with the church, not them.
How?
We should have taught them better. You truly are uncompromising, sister. A credit to your faith.
Compassion begets heresy.
It can. But heresy is the ocean, and compassion is the mountain stream. Few drown in the latter.
I frowned. Compassion is the death of duty, that makes men something less than beasts. He grunted in recognition.
You invoke the prime edicts of the Holy Synod. But the prime edicts say only that, when the people forget their duty, they are no longer human. Compassion can be the death of duty, but it can also be its lodestar. Does the Emperor not have compassion for all humankind? Why else would he sacrifice himself for us?
I thought on that for a few moments. The God Emperor owes no duty to humanity.
Nonetheless, it proves that not all compassion is sin.
I shook my head. God cannot sin. If we allow compassion for the weak and the craven, then soon we will allow compassion for the disabled and the mutant, and then what? The Xenos? The witch?
Why must one lead to the other?
Because we are short-sighted and sinful.
But that is the purpose of the ecclesiarchy, sister. Think of the Grox, goaded by the Groxman. Without the electro-pen, the Grox continues forward, but it is stopped by the pen. Like this, the ecclesiarchy protects her children, and does not condemn the Groxman's goad.
I sniffed. You say all this so that I will betray my oath.
Lorelei, you can show yourself compassion without betraying your oath.
I am penitent. Pain cleanses.
You have already condemned yourself to death. Why must you suffer more?
I already told you. Pain cleanses. Father Gerald sighed. He suddenly looked weary, as if he had aged a dozen years.
Who was she?
I reeled at the sudden turn. Father? His voice was calm but insistent.
Who was she?
I swallowed. I stared out across the ruined nave and saw none of it. Sister Agatha. The best woman I have ever known.
Tell me about her,
Why?
because I wish to know.
I ran my tongue against the back of my teeth. My chest felt tight. I heard the echo of her prayers in my memory. I don't want to.
Please.
I swallowed again. She was perfect. I wouldn't be able to.
What did she look like?
An angel of wrath. Her face wore scars like threads through a tapestry. Her eyes shone with his light. Her hair was black and white, and in her power armor she looked like all the saints that had come before.
How did she die?
It's the sniper's bullet. She just went limp.
How was that your fault?
I should have seen him.
Did Sister Agatha?
Father.
Did Sister Agatha see this coward before he took his shot?
No, but it was my responsibility. He was in my line.
Were you not paying attention?
Of course I was.
Then how is it your fault?
Because I didn't see him.
Was he hiding?
Fiercely. But I should have seen him.
Why?
Father.
Why should you have seen him?
I shook my head. My hands rolled into fists. If I had not been there, she would still be alive.
How?
The bullet. It ricocheted off my armor. She would still be alive.
That's not your fault, Lorelei.
I tell you that it is! I tell you that it is. He simply shook his head. I trembled in rage. You don't know anything about it. You weren't there. I lived, and she died, and it was the wrong way round. The bullet was aimed at me, and she died. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. My trembling took out my knees from under me, and I tumbled forwards. Father Gerald caught me. I wept into his shoulder. It's not fair.
I know, child. I know.
Someone has to pay. Don't you understand? Someone has to pay.
I understand. Shh. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
When I had finished weeping, it seemed as though all my energy had drained out of me with my tears. I sat beside Father Gerald. I felt weak. I felt foolish. I felt childish. But I felt a little better, too. How did you know? I asked him, after a little while. About Sister Agatha. He smiled sadly.
I saw it in your eyes. I recognize it from my own reflection in the mirror.
You lost someone.
Yes.
What was their name?
His name was Kieran. He was a good man.
What did he look like? His smile deepened at a conversational parallel.
Well, not like a saint. The main thing I remember was his beard. Great bushy thing of black hair. He had suffered the pox when he was a child. He was ashamed of the scars, and he hid them behind his beard.
I went to ask another question, but Father Gerald continued before I could.
He was big. He'd worked the factorum all his life, and his fingers had hardened into calluses. There was a scar across his lip from where a belt feeder had snapped away, but he wasn't ashamed of that scar. I don't know why the pox scars bothered him and that one didn't. He was odd like that, full of contradictions.
Was he conscripted?
Yes. He had been a foreman, so they made him lieutenant. That's when I met him. Throne above. He had no idea what he was doing, but he hid it well. I thought I'd lend a hand. I told him that pretending was half the battle. War is chaos. Soldiers, especially conscripts, They just want someone who can impose some kind of order on that chaos. Someone who'll help them make sense of it. They see someone who isn't dithering or panicking, and it helps them believe that everything is under control. And that can make all the difference.
How did he die? The preacher sighed. He looked across the nave.
It was my fault. I'd been too persuasive. She insisted that he'd lead from the front, that he'd be the first across the barricades. He only made it a few meters. I was running alongside him when it happened.
Father Gerald frowned.
I kept going. I left him behind. I had to. If I hadn't, morale was already wavering. So I left him behind. By the time I got back to him, he was already dead. He had bled out. Maybe I could have saved his life. Maybe. I don't know.
The preacher glanced at me. He still wore his sad smile.
I know I did the right thing. If I hadn't led those men in that moment, if they had broken, we would all have died. But I still think about how I might have been able to save him.
He reached out to me and squeezed my hand. I squeezed it back.
You've already condemned yourself, Lorelei. You don't need to punish yourself further.
I looked away, unable to meet his eyes. Father Gerald sighed again.
But I understand, sister. I understand.
We returned to the company soon after that. I staggered with my broken rib, but this time I didn't press the ice pack hard into my side. The soldiers of the 1st Free Regiment of New Acrylem had finished picking over their dead by the time we arrived. The bodies of slain heroes were arranged in neat rows, their lasguns empty of ammunition and the grenades missing from their belts. Some were unarmed, where a living soldier had replaced a malfunctioning gun. Others no longer wore helmets, or flak jackets, or even boots above their bloody, holed socks. Sergeant Villick approached us. Now that I knew they were conscriptive Factorum workers, it seemed obvious. The sergeant, a broad-shouldered, burly-armed man with a posture stooped into a permanent hunch. His eyes were weary and bloodshot. Stubble grew out into thick wires around his mouth. His hand was full of dog tags, the metal scraps hanging from chains of rusted iron. Villick handed the dog tags off to the corporal with the medikit. They joined a larger collection in her backpack.
Father Gerald, if it's not too much trouble.
A benediction for the dead.
The preacher finished.
Yes, of course.
The sergeant nodded gratefully.
I'll gather the troops.
He offered me an uneasy glance.
Sister?
I accompanied Father Gerald to a shattered wall. I held the ice pack against my side and breathed through the pain as he clambered onto the crumbling parapet. The conscript soldiers gathered quickly, few in number as they were.
Brothers and sisters of the Imperium, soldiers of his triumphant armies, we thank the Emperor for the gift of life, and we thank the Emperor that we might serve him in battle.
Ave, I said loudly, eliciting similar replies from the gathered crowd.
Ave!
Just as the Emperor defends humanity from those enemies within, without, and beyond, so must humanity defend the Emperor. Just as the Emperor sacrifices himself for us, so must we sacrifice ourselves to him.
Ave!
The blood of martyrs waters the fields of the Imperium, and from those fields is the harvest of our species' survival sown. By his will and sacrifice does humanity rule the stars. By our faith and sacrifice does his Imperium endure against the terror.
Ave!
It is natural to grieve for those that have fallen. But the Creed teaches that there is no greater glory than to die in his service. We see before us dead men and women, but their souls have flown as eagles to the Emperor's side. They are the blessed, and we are the wretched, for they are exalted by the light of the golden throne.
Ave!
But fear not, brothers and sisters. For this war is yet young, and whether we survive in glory or are martyred in triumph, we shall be blessed and feel his favour. So, try not to mourn the blessed dead. Grieve instead that we have only the one life to give. For those sacrificed in his name are showered in blessings, and shall enter his kingdom of light.
Ave!
We commend the fallen to his grace, and we are joyful, for they are by his side. Ave Imperator. Glory to the golden throne.
Glory to the throne! The preacher genuflected, the gesture repeated in ripples across the ordered ranks. He hopped down from the wall as NCOs reorganized the troops into full-strength squads, flashing me a conspiratorial smile.
I think that went well. Their faith is strong.
Before I could reply, Sergeant Villick approached us again. His eyes were red.
Annie got the Vox working.
He reported in low tones.
We're to advance towards the Administratum zones and join the main push on the palace.
Father Gerald nodded.
Understood.
Villick paused. His bloodshot eyes settled on the preacher with a searching look.
Is it true, what you said? Did the martyred truly stand at his side?
Father Gerald took the sergeant's hands, gently pressing them between his own. He smiled. His deep, acorn-brown eyes glistened with the light of distant stars.
Yes, Samuel. It is true. And soon, we shall join them.
We never reached the Administratum zones. Our advance through the dusty streets was cautious but hurried, the troops eager to join the main assault. All seemed well. Our boots pressed ash and detritus into the broken rockcrete. The grey clouds opened to a light, cleansing rain, washing away the dust of a murdered city. But then I heard the stuttering scream of incoming flyers, and knew that we were doomed. "Bombers!" I cried. My heart beat wildly in my chest.
Take cover!
Sergeant Villick screamed.
Take cover!
Men and women scattered, but it was already too late. The shadow of ramshackle bombers flew overhead. The scream of descending bombs with a cry of carrion fighting over scraps of meat, and the explosions that followed were their hot, fetid breath. I made no attempt to take cover. A profound sense of calm took root in my bones, tempered by sorrow. I watched as men and women were flung into the air, or else were liquefied into geysers of vitae gore. A blast threw me from my feet. The same explosion obliterated Sergeant Villick into chunks of bloody gruel, and flung Father Gerald through the air. I saw the preacher land. His neck snapped around the corner of a bombed-out bank. My body was soaked with blood that was not my own. I tasted burned, human flesh on my tongue. The bombers passed over. A brief, relative hush held court, composed of smouldering fires, falling dust, and frightened screams. Soldiers called for their mothers and clutched at ruined stumps of flesh. Others wandered about in a daze, deaf and blind. I blinked. I wiped the blood from my eyes and swallowed away the silence in my ears. I heard the whine of rockets falling to earth, too small to be munitions, too large to be fireworks. I rose, readying my eviscerator in both hands and leaving the ice pack in the dust. The Orc jump infantry flew blind into the falling smoke, victims of their own ignorance and malice. I saw the burned flares of a crude jump pack and struck out, rewarded by the tension resistance of foul, leathery skin. Xenos vitae sprayed across my face. I advanced, pressing down on my weapon until bone gave way and its chain teeth tasted air on the other side. Another landed behind me, its rocket pack guttering as the beast snorted and spluttered. I spun, with my blade outstretched, taking the creature at the neck. Its head followed the eviscerator's path through the air. Evil black vitae chased after its uncomprehending expression of dull surprise. The smoke began to clear. Yet more orcs landed in the rubble of human flesh and Rockreach Street. I thought of her hair, black and white, and charged with a prayer on my lips. I met an orc midway, ducking beneath the clumsy swing of its cleaver and burying the eviscerator into its fat gut. I screamed glorious hate and pushed the teeth of my weapon into its innards. I thought of the many scars across her face and drove the orc down into a pool of its own viscera. More Xenos landed from the smokestack sky. The butchery began. Crude blades split flak and splayed skin. Primitive pistols belched bullets and rancid discharge, punching conscripts off their feet. The conscripts began to panic. No one was issuing orders. Sergeant Villick was dead. Father Gerald was dead. The corporal with the medikit was dead, dog tags spilling from her bag and melting in the heat. The soldiers broke. Butchery became an extermination. I thought of the shining further behind her eyes and searched for the next orc I would kill. A bullet slammed into my chest. I felt it ricochet around my ribs. Blood filled my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I was on the ground. I was drowning in my own vitae. I clawed along the floor, dragging the eviscerator behind me. Its machine spirit roared bloody vengeance as it scraped along the floor. My sight began to fail. My peripherals shrunk, compressing on the rest of my vision and squeezing it into a thin tunnel of dying light. A machete buried into my back. I spasmed, transfixed by the blade like an insect wriggling on a pin. I tried to swing my eviscerator back, but I no longer had the strength to move it. My tunnel of vision collapsed into utter darkness. I heard nothing but the slowing beat of my broken heart. In those last moments, I did not think of him. I thought of her, of how sorry I was. I hoped she would forgive me.
Thank you for listening to this video from the Archive Tower. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to the channel.